So I want you guys to try and work through this problem on your own, but first I want to just give you some options for a couple of these blanks. So this one right here can either be, you have the choice of a tax or a subsidy. So those are your two choices for that blank. And then this one I'm not going to give you any help with. And then these two I'm not going to give you any help with. And then this one will also be a tax or a subsidy. Whoops, subsidy. So at this point I think you should pause, try and work through this on your own, and then right after this I'm going to pick up and start working through the answer. Okay, so the first thing is that the unregulated equilibrium is represented by point A. And that's because that is where private demand is equal to supply. So if we aren't taking into account any externalities, we will have, all that we will worry about is our private demand, our own personal demand. And so the unregulated equilibrium is represented by point A. Now the socially optimal equilibrium is where we take into account this is a positive externality. So I'm just going to write positive up here. So is where we take into account the positive externality, which means we take into account the demand of society, not only the private demand. So the socially optimal equilibrium is represented by point B. Now to make this market reach I probably should have said socially optimal equilibrium. So I probably should have said socially right here. Or societally optimal, I don't really know. The government could offer a Pigouvian tax or subsidy. So in this case, we know that we have a positive externality, so we know that we're going to be talking about a Pigouvian subsidy. It's kind of the way it goes in my head. But another way you can think of it is that we are trying to make people produce more of, or purchase and produce more of this good. And so in order to do that, we're not going to tax them because that would make them produce less. We're going to give them a subsidy. And the value of the subsidy is calculated as you go to the socially optimal point, and then you go from there down to demand, or in the case of a negative externality, I think, hold on, I'm going to have to draw this really quickly so I don't say something wrong. Yeah, so you go, in both cases, here you're going to go down to supply, and in this case you're going to go down to demand. So you go down to find out how much the individual is willing to pay, or how much it would cost the individual firm. So here you go to find out that the value of the externality is, or the value of the externality and the amount of the subsidy that you're going to have to offer is 15 minus 5. So I should write that out, sorry. 15 minus 5, which is equal to $10. So we should give a Pigouvian subsidy of $10. So then firms will get this $15 up here on their supply curve. So they'll receive $15, and consumers will pay only $5, which is all that they are willing to pay because that's what the private demand is, after the subsidy of $10. So that's really all that I wanted to work through here.